and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy, episode number 18. And we are back after attempting to record the start of this episode like 9 times because Brock's computer, for some reason, wouldn't recognize the USB on the mixer board. Excellent. Hi, I'm Ryan Higgins. Who am I joined by?
And I'm Brock Sager.
Hello, Brock Sager.
With this shitty laptop.
No, your laptop's fine. I don't know what was happening. I was not getting that bunk bunk that makes it the sound when the computer recognizes something. Yeah, so I don't know what was going on. But, since we're running super late tonight, let's try to make this a short episode.
Oh, great.
I just jinxed myself.
Yep.
A super long episode. So.
Dude, you did it 3 times. We're definitely going to have a long episode.
Well,
we don't have really anything to talk about.
We got a few things to talk about. Every time I said we'll have a short episode tonight, like more people kept coming to the door. Some of our regular customers. So, Trip, hello, welcome. I hope you're listening to this episode now that you've just left the store when you hear this next week. So, Brock, what's happening?
Not much. I mean, not much as news has been coming out.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet on the news front, except for one.
This is the quiet before the new Rejiggered 52 storm.
Yeah. There was one really, really big news story from last week, but we'll save that for a little bit later in the podcast. We're going to start with an email.
Oh, wow. That's not out of character for us.
No. You got to start, got to go with what you know.
Yep.
And we know a little bit about the question that's going to be asked. A guy named Jacob Heed, H-E-I-D. Heed!
Paper! Now! Move that melon of yours and get the paper if you can. On the gargantuan cranium about... Well, that was offset, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He'll be crying himself to sleep tonight on his huge pillow.
That's here, and now is...
I swear that boy's head's like Sputnik. Spherical but quick pointy in parts.
Now is So I Married an Ex-Murderer your favorite Mike Myers movie of all time, or just I
think it's the most quotable.
I would agree with that. I do. I'm not a huge Mike Myers fan, but So I Married an Ex-Murderer is like that really weird, underrated movie of his that it's like Ed Wood for Tim Burton. It's like this weird movie that not a lot of people realize he did, and same with...
I don't like Ed Wood.
So you should. Ed Wood's the best movie
I've
ever
tried.
made.
I've watched it a couple times. I can't get into it.
It's so funny. All right, sorry, Jacob. We'll just ignore your last name for now, like we normally do. He says, first of all, I just want to say I've been a fan since your first episode, actually before the podcast. I wasn't too interested in comics, but now I'd have to say I'm very much like to start getting into them. Well, congratulations.
It's an addiction.
Comics are awesome. I was thinking about starting with Hellblazer, the occult detective angle sounding rather intriguing. My question is, should I start with Swamp Thing, since that is where John Constantine got his start, or could I pick up Hellblazer without being too confused and go back to Swamp Thing later? Well, for those who don't know, John Constantine's a long-running series by Vertigo. The book's called Hellblazer. He's a character who's introduced in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing series back in the mid-'80s. I've read... I'm so far behind on the current Hellblazer stuff, but I've read all the old stuff. I'm years behind. Jesus, I don't even want to know how far I am behind. But, I have read all the old stuff, and I have read Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Personally, you can go either way. He does make quite a few appearances in Swamp Thing, but not a ton. And then what they do in the Hellblazer book really defines the character. I don't want to say he's different in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, but it's... the bulk of the characterization comes in the Hellblazer comic itself. So, Brock, I know you've read Swamp Thing, but you've only read a little bit of Hellblazer. What's your feeling?
Well, on your recommendation a long time ago, when I asked about Hellblazer, you said, well, read the Swamp Thing stuff first.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, you should read Swamp Thing anyway.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing is one of the best comic books ever published. You should read it regardless if you want to read Hellblazer or not. So, but that aside.
Yeah, that aside, getting into Hellblazer through Swamp Thing, there's only a few instances, and it's more towards the end of those 6 volumes that he's actually there.
Right.
But I haven't actually dove into a lot of the Hellblazer stuff because it's not volumized.
All right, now
except for the first one.
And they've not done anything
since. And they have not done anything since. And this is a series, I think, that would benefit greatly from a volumization condensing down, because there's a lot of trades that are really small that could be put together. And I understand that that's 20 or some odd trades, and people don't like getting into those high numbers. But look at Walking Dead, look at Fables. I mean, those books are those books carry, and they're on Fables is on 15.
Yeah,
and still going. And
but there is the issue where the higher numbers do sell less generally than the older numbers. I mean, the amount of Walking Dead #1 and Fables #1 that have sold blow everything else out of the water.
Well, yeah.
You are going to get attrition. Specifically in the case of Hellblazer, I'm wondering if this is what they're going to do. So they've released, at this point, almost everything in trade paperback. A lot of them now are out of print, though, which is the problem, because they've started to do this renumbered thing where they're going to go through and do it in numerical order. What I think they're going to do, now don't quote me on this, but this would make more sense. They'll take Jamie Delano, who was the original writer on the book. They're going to do volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, of his stuff.
And that's perfectly and really fine.
And then do a volume 1 that has like the Neil Gaiman issue, the Grant Morrison issue that has the little one-shots. And then do volume 1 of Garth Ennis, and do volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever of Garth Ennis. And then go to, who took over after Garth Ennis? Did it go straight into Paul Jenkins, or was there someone else in between? No, Paul Jenkins had a long run. Warren Ellis had a long run. Brian Azzarello had a decent run. If you had a lot of creators, Mike Carey, you've had a lot of creators that have come and gone on Hellblazer, mostly British, except for Brian Azzarello, which ironically enough has one of the more controversial runs, and it takes place in America. So it's like people kind of looked at that as a weird kind of black horse of the run on Hellblazer, although it was good. So yeah, Hellblazer, because of the way they're collected, it's going to be a little hard to track down all the issues. I would say your best bets, pick up Original Sin, which is now it's the volume 1,
and it has a Jim Lee cover.
Right. Which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a good picture, good cover, but it's very, very weird, especially with the art style that's actually in the book.
Yeah. I would definitely pick up Swamp Thing either way. 6 volumes, 6 hardcovers, 6 softcovers, whichever way you want to do it. You won't regret it. Swamp Thing is one of the best comics ever published. After that, you may want to bounce around a little bit. You can go straight into the Garth Ennis stuff if you want to jump into the new stuff. The comic version in Hellblazer versus what's going to be in the new 52 stuff is a very different character.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, there are going to be similarities, but it is not the same character. So keep that in mind when reading. But yeah. Brock, any final thoughts? What do you think? You'd just go for Swamp Thing?
Yeah. Go for Swamp Thing. Go for Original Sin.
Let them have some more time.
Yeah, let them have some more time to put some trades out, because I think that if they do those collections in order where it's the grouping of because they kind of do that now.
Yeah.
But there's no number to it, so I think that's the best thing. Kind of wait on it. But I mean, you read Swamp Thing and Original Sin. I didn't even read Original Sin, and I enjoyed the hell out of Brightest Day. And, I'm enjoying
he's only at 1 page.
Yeah, but that's the thing is reading Swamp Thing and Brightest Day and, Hellblazer and all that stuff, they, just a little bit of information that just a little bit of what bleeds into Brightest Day from Swamp Thing, I was like blown away. I was like, cool, but I'm unlike every other person who read Swamp Thing when it first came out or years ago, and now they're finally getting this. Well, spoiler alert.
Well, with the new Swamp Thing series, which is by Scott Snyder, I think if the quality of his book is as good as what he's doing on all the other titles for DC, I think you're going to see a lot of people go back, grab the Alan Moore stuff, grab the Rick Veitch stuff. I'm sure they're going to release Morrison's run, because Morrison and Mark Miller had a run on Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me to see that get reissued. A lot of these books, I could see people going back and checking out the old Swamp Thing stuff, and especially if John Constantine in Justice League Dark and the other series that he's going to probably pop around and show up in, I'm sure he'll be in Swamp Thing as well. I would not be surprised if they're maybe waiting to have this be the new push to kind of get Volume 2 and kind of put an emphasis on Volume 1 again and then push it out further. But if I was DC, I would have released chronological trades by creators and maybe be like, Volume 1 is Jamie Delano. volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Volume 2, just an overarching volume number.
Well, it'd be volume 1, book 1, book
1,
2.
right, yeah. Sure, exactly. So you know how to go through this. But if you just want to jump in and read the Garth Ennis stuff, you're not stuck with volume 7 or 8 and make it look kind of weird. I think that's the best way to do it. And then do these small collections of the one-shots or minis or specials that kind of can fit at the end or elsewhere, since they're not really tied to any specific story. Yeah. The Neil Gaiman, Dave McKean issue is really good, and I want to go back and reread that. I haven't read that in years and years and years. So, good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, he has one more question, since we're talking about the new 52.
The new rejiggered 52?
Jesus, stop saying that.
No.
I had a question about the new 52 coming from DC. Not following comics when other relaunch happens, I'm not quite sure what they pertain. Will the continuity reboot completely? Will recent limited series like Brightest Day no longer count in the current continuity? Thanks for any help you can provide a comic newcomer in treading the windy road of comics continuity. We've mentioned this a little bit from time to time.
I'm going to try not to hate.
It's fine. Hate away. It is unclear.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is it's unclear exactly what's being kept and what's being gotten rid of. And I mean, because the thing is Superman, Justice League are all 5 years in the past.
Yeah.
And then Action Comics is 10 years in the past.
They haven't really said specific numbers. I believe Justice League is 5 years ago.
Justice League is 5 years ago.
Right.
And then Action Comics is 10 years ago.
Yeah, they haven't said a specific number, but I feel it should be about 10 years ago if Justice League is 5.
And then, but the Batman universe is staying somewhat the same.
Well, it's funny you mentioned this because I read an article today where they said DC was talking about the Robins, saying that each of the Robins is sort of this kind of trial period, and that's why there's been multiple Robins. But they've already said Batman's been around a lot longer than these guys, than a lot of these other superheroes. That's why he's a little bit older. So they wouldn't need that. I mean, you may not have Dick Grayson join the Teen Titans. You may not have, Tim Drake, obviously, with the new Teen Titans, or the newer Teen Titans. Yeah. But I don't think you need to go back and say, Batman ran through 5 Robins in 5 years and he's only been around for 5 years. It seems to me like Batman's been around for a while.
Yeah.
So it's kind of what Brock was saying. It's not clear, but the problem is people want to know before the books actually ship, and then they're not going to say anything. The fact of the matter is we will find out as these books go along. The problem is you don't need to worry about such strict continuity in this case because they are doing kind of what I've said before, the soft continuity, where things are going to be malleable. They're going to shape the continuity however they kind of want. They don't want a predefined past because, when they did this in Crisis on Infinite Earths, when they tried to reintroduce these characters, they reintroduced Wonder Woman, and it was like, okay, and then she was best friends with Superman and Batman next issue, like it had never happened. So they're going to leave, it sounds like they're leaving the past mostly open. And if they want a story to have taken place, they'll have it. They'll say, "Hey, this story happened." If they don't have to. And the problem is, you could look at Spider-Man, and I mean, you can't possibly fit everything he's ever done into his life. You couldn't fit 1/10 of what he did into anyone's life. It's just you can't worry about. Like I said, the origin matters. What happened last issue matters. Everything else in the middle is kind of like, well, if we reference it, we reference it. If we don't, we don't. Don't let the continuity ruin the stories. So, in this case, I mean, Brock has his take on it, but my take is it matters if they want it to matter, and just ignore the rest.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, it's a good jumping on point for people. It's a number one. That's great. But I think that with newcomers to comic books, what happens is you fall into this problem of, well, I jumped in, I like this, I want to go back,
and you can.
But the problem when you go back, right, is the same thing that they're talking about with the continuity. You kind of just have to.
But this is the same thing as reading any pre-crisis continuity. John Byrne's Man of Steel has not been in continuity for years at this point. You go back and look at any of those Earth 1, Earth 2 books, they were out of continuity. Now they're back in continuity. Then Grant Morrison introduces a totally new Earth 2, which strips all that from continuity. You can't let this stuff get to you because it is literally impossible to make this stuff work because they contradict each other so often.
Well, because the characters are. If you look, there's probably somebody out there that's done this where they've actually shown how for every human year, Batman ages like an hour or some shit.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest problem that most people have, especially, current readers, is they're excited and they're hopeful, but again, they're looking at it from the standpoint of, well, there's 52 new titles coming out. I'll pick up the 52, I'll read them, but really am I going to stick with more than what I've allotted on a month-to-month basis?
No.
So
I don't think that's a problem one way or another. I mean, they would stick with the books they want to read. You have a lot of comic readers that are on a pretty strict budget. You have a lot of comic readers that are like, if I like it, I'll buy it. I don't care. Yeah. This is the one drug for a lot of people that I know. So it's not that big of a deal. If people don't like them, well, there's all sorts of books people don't like. They could drop it at any point. I think, I've made it known on here, and if I haven't said these specific numbers, I'll say it now. With the exception of Fear itself, my orders for every single DC comic, that includes Men at War, that includes OMAC, that includes Hawk and Dove, that includes, just every single title. Every
title that was in the comic shop news, that was all the stuff that's getting cut pretty much within the first 4 months. You didn't see that? In the comic shop news, they're advertising the new 52, and it was all those offbeat titles like Batwing.
Oh, this most recent one. Yeah,
and it was like Batwing, and it was like, all the randoms that are, because it's, Didio shot himself in the foot by saying, if it's not performing, we're going to cut it. So it's like.
Well, I'll get to that in a second. But like I said, with the exception of Fear itself, all those books, Batwing included, I've ordered every single one of those books at higher numbers than every other Marvel book. And I can't be alone in this. I know people are going super, super deep with the DC relaunch stuff. So the amount of people that are going to try a book like Jonah Hex or Batwing or Men at War.
There is no
OMAC,
Jonah Hex.
Well, All-Star Western. The amount of people that are going to try these books for the first time is so much higher than if DC had just launched a brand new number one. Because Jonah Hex, I ordered like 10 copies when it launched, and now I'm ordering 8 copies. Obviously at this point I'm going to order like 50 or 60 copies. It has a further length to fall because very few people will continue to read past issue number 1. But you're going to get so many more people than if you were to just launch this thing kind of cold.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a big success for DC, or possibly I'll be out of business. So, luckily they're returnable. So for most of the titles, so it gives me a little bit. If you see me sleeping in an alleyway, sleeping in a bed made of Scott Snyder's Swamp Thing, you'll know what happened because that's not one of the returnable issues.
Please click the donate button on the geekbox.net website and specifically, wire the money to Ryan Higgins
so I can pay my rent.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a big month of stuff. So
I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I don't care what people say. When it comes to comic books, there's no definitive jumping in point.
No,
it's nice to have a number one to jump into.
Sure. Well, Marvel and DC.
But the fact of the matter is it's jumping where you want. It's a personalized jumping in point.
Sure.
You jumped in with Darkhawk number 4.
Yeah.
I jumped in at some probably random comic book that I saw, and the first comic book I remember getting was Batman and the Outsiders number 1.
I ask people this on a pretty regular basis, except for especially older customers. And I say, what was the first book you read? Oh, World's Finest number 140. I'm like, yeah, exactly. You didn't jump into number 1 of anything. No one does.
But the thing is the older generation had easier jumping in points. Single issue wise, because they were single issue stories.
Sure, but if you jump in with Uncanny X-Men 130, that's no worse than jumping into X-Men 630.
Yeah.
At that point, by the time you hit the 70s, the continuity, especially at Marvel, was just as complicated as it is now.
Yeah.
I know so many people whose first comic was like the Amazing Spider-Man, or Spider-Man number 1, the Todd McFarlane one. And that book is, it's just the beginning of a story arc. It doesn't give you anything you don't need to know. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what the numbers are. What I'm actually really interested to see is stores that sell out, how quickly they sell out of some of these books, if they really underorder. I remember when the Flashpoint was coming out, the miniseries were first announced. I was talking with the people at the pickup group where we pick up our comics, and I said, I'm going a pretty decent amount on most of these books, even the little one-shots like Canterbury Cricket and
Gorilla Grodd.
And Gorilla Grodd. I mean, people will probably want to pick these up, and everyone laughed at me like I was crazy. Well, 3 months later, here I am reordering these issues still, and every single store I've talked to, like, oh yeah, we sold out of that the first day. Like, I can't believe it. I'm like, see, you have to be willing to take a risk on some of these titles because it does pay off. Now, All-Star Western, Batwing, am I going to be ordering 100 copies of number 2s on these? No, not unless they're returnable. Yeah. It's suicide. But will my numbers on 2 be higher than they would have been if I didn't take this risk on number 1? Yeah, I think they would have been lower. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's all depends on, what people are doing, if they, and honestly, how well the economy is. I mean, with the state of things now, it's either going to get worse or it's going to stay pretty much the same. So,
with our not AAA,
yeah, with our A plus, credit score as a nation.
It's like I think credit score is like modern public schooling, where it's like, oh, you totally failed, just give them an A anyway. What do we care? You only get an AA plus, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on here. Stupid politics. I went to a pretty cool thing this last weekend that Brock is kicking himself.
Yeah, I'm kicking myself in the ass for not going, but I actually,
over and over
care about my girlfriend and her happiness. And
what does she have to do with it?
What
was she saying? She didn't want you to go?
Well, I mean, her dad had his, I can't call it a second annual, it's his second beer pong tournament of the summer.
Okay, then you have no second of the summer?
Second of the summer, yeah.
Oh, okay, you have absolutely, you could have been like, you don't really drink that much anymore.
I drink, but I don't drink that much, and I don't play beer pong, but it's more along the lines of, like, I go because it's, kind of her family, and it's, an event that her dad, invited us to, and, I should have gone to the Grant Morrison signing up at Isotope.
Well, while you were not going, or while you were playing beer pong.
I was not playing beer pong. Playing Angry Birds, actually. My girlfriend's like, why are you isolating yourself? I'm like, because I'm not drinking, and it's loud as shit out there, and I don't want to talk to anybody.
I went up to the Grant Morrison signing up at Isotope Comics in San Francisco. I've mentioned Isotope once or twice before, and I will continue to mention the store because it's awesome. I mean, I love my store too, but James Sims brings the fucking shit. So,
yeah, did you ask him to be on the podcast?
James?
Yeah.
I talked to him a while ago about it. I actually do want him, if he comes down here for something, or if we can get him on Skype or something like that, I'd love to have him on, because, I mean, the guy is so energetic, and he's just so upbeat about everything, unlike certain other podcasters I podcast with.
Yeah.
Mark Sager.
Jack.
Ryan Scott.
Ryan Higgins when it comes to Marvel.
Hey, I'm honest. Okay,
so am I.
Yeah. Anyway, so Isotope Comics is a very popular comic store in San Francisco. Although they do stock a good supply of trade paperbacks and new comics, they are more known for their totally awesome parties, amazing guests they get in to sign there. I've been there numerous times. I would like to think I'm good friends with James, the owner. He's a really great guy. I love going up there every time. So this time he had Grant Morrison up there which is the second time he's had him, which for the release of Super Gods, which is not a novel. It's like a nonfiction book about comic books, about comic book characters.
Yeah, that's cool. Did we get it in here? Oh, no, wait. We shorted.
Yeah, Diamond shorted us all our copies. They should be in here this week. So if you want to buy...
I was going to... Because I heard about it and I wanted to pick it up, but I didn't... $40 for me to go up there was...
Wow. Comes with a glass, too. With Grant Morrison flipping you off.
Oh, that's great. That's always what I needed, is Grant Morrison flipping me off on a glass.
So, went up there, hung out. I mean, got a bunch of friends that are always up there. A buddy of mine named Ken, the Forrest Gump of comic books. I explained this to Brock earlier today.
Does he listen to this podcast?
I don't think he does, but I'd love to have him on. He's a character.
Because if he did listen to the podcast and he was the Forrest Gump of comic books, he'd tell you were a moron.
We'll explain this.
And I was an idiot.
If I ever get Ken to come on here and talk. A good friend of mine, Matt Maxwell, does a comic called Strange Ways. If you ever go on Comic Book Resources, they have on the Robot 6 blog, I know he has a page up there. Is it once a week? Once a day? I think it's once a week. He's got a second print copy coming. This Volume 2 is coming to print pretty soon. Ran into a couple customers from the store. And, got to talk with Grant Morrison for a few minutes, just hang out. At WonderCon, I believe I mentioned this, Frank Quietly was at Isotope for their after party, their WonderCon after party, and I picked up that piece of original art from All-Star Superman. Well, I got Grant Morrison to sign that, so that was really cool.
Did he flip you off after he signed it?
No. Grant, it's funny. Grant Morrison's one of those guys, you think he's like this total rock star. He's like a super mellow, like someone, I heard someone kind of say, it's kind of interesting, there's that documentary about him that came out, Grant Morrison goes...
Talking with Gods.
Talking with Gods.
Yeah, it was on Hulu.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. Is it still
I don't know
there?
if it's still up there.
I think it still is.
But I was watching a little bit of it, but streaming on Hulu is like streaming with a prostitute with a stutter.
It's good if you have a good internet connection.
But then you get the advertisement that doesn't freaking work, and you have to sit there and look at the page saying, our ad doesn't work for 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, that aside, they kind of mentioned like he's kind of almost uncomfortable in his own skin, which is like I kind of understand what they mean by that. Like he definitely is not this rock god, this rock star guy that you kind of his kind of persona. He's a very quiet, very down to earth, super awesome, super chill guy. The guys in front of us were talking to him for like 20 minutes before we got our autograph. And he was I was fine with it. He's willing to just sit there and shoot the shit with anyone. Super nice guy. Grant Morrison's great. So it was really fun. And Brock, I'd love for you to come out with us one of these things to one of these signings. I think you have a blast. So
need a little bit more time. Need a little more heads up notice.
I think
you gave me like a week and a half.
Okay, I should have been 5 minutes. You're like, Grant Morrison signing? Yes, I'm going. How much is it? All right, I'll work an extra day at the store. Cool.
No. See, that's you. That's not me. I have responsibilities.
Responsibility.
And you can take a shot. Responsibilities does mean my kid.
Yeah. Bring your kid up there. Get him signed by Grant Morrison. Go to the tattoo.
Get my kid signed.
Go to the tattoo parlor down the road. Get him to tattoo the signature.
Why don't you do that?
With your kid?
No, with you.
Why don't? No, I'm not tattoo.
You get Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Frank Quietly to sign your ass.
No, maybe. But
get a nice little list going.
So I would highly recommend anyone that ends up in the San Francisco Bay Area, as well as visiting Comics Conspiracy at 115-8 East Fremont Avenue, Sunnyvale, California, 94087. If you end up in San Francisco, you should also visit Isotope Comics, which is on Fell Street. Very cool shop. Tell James. If you see a guy in an awesome suit with big hair, that's more than likely James. Tell him Ryan says hello. So, speaking of comic book shops, I don't try to super plug the store all that often.
Just plug the store, dude.
But I did want to talk about this. Brock, we've been trying to get this set up for a while.
Yeah, but you didn't send me the link.
Oh, I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
We've been trying to work. I've had a lot of people through the Geekbox and through the Comic Conspiracy podcast now asking us about doing mail order. And I mentioned this once or twice before. We were more than happy to do mail order. Due to being a retail store, it is difficult to offer competitive discounts on trade paperbacks like
and
Amazon.
California's bullshit taxes.
And
we have to charge you tax.
And now we have to charge sales tax.
Assholes.
So we kind of have two different things we're doing around this. We do absolutely support the store. We do absolutely do love the support people have given the store. We've had a lot of people doing mail orders.
Seth in Illinois?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That guy, dude, everyone else has to step up to Seth. This guy orders a lot of books.
They don't have to step up to him. But, I mean,
if you want the personal shout out.
Seth, I like packing your box because your shit's actually a box.
But yeah, I mean, if anyone's looking for trades or single issues, we do subscriptions. This may actually be news to Brock because I still have to find a way to get this planned out. But because we can't offer the sort of major discounts because we're a physical brick and mortar retail store that a lot of the online stores can, we do try to throw in special items. We have a bunch of free comics we throw on there, posters, sometimes some free toys. If we get something cool, like some signed books, I mean, we're happy to throw those type of things in there too. We're actually in the process of, or I'm in the process of getting the store's point of sale system set up for a credit system. So while we can't do a strict cashback discount like, say, something Amazon does, what we're going to do is a discount for our online and mail order and kind of casual non-subscriber customers.
It's like a reward program.
Right, like a reward program where you get a certain amount at the end of the month. You're going to get a certain total back in a store credit. And this is going to include everyone that does mail order. We're still offering free shipping on all mail orders. So, but this is something we're going to be rolling out in the future, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this. The thing I did want to talk about was we finally got our online storefront up. It's kind of an annoying username. It's kind of an annoying URL. It's not something simple like Amazon. Maybe I'll see if I can find a good forwarder for it. But for right now, we'll have this up on our retail site. We'll have, which is comicsconspiracy.biz. But if you want the direct link, it's comicsconspiracy.theretailerplace.com. We will get a better link to this up, and you can check our site or the Geekbox site. But basically what this is, it's not like an affiliate program like, let's say, Amazon does. This is a distributor, a book CD, DVD, music, graphic novels. They don't do single-issue comics, but it is a distributor we've dealt with for years now, and they are in the process of setting up online storefronts for retail stores. While we don't make the same sort of profit off these we would as, say, a direct order from the store, so we are still encouraging that. If you want, you can use this to order books. A lot of times when we have to order books, we have to go through the distributor. You have to ship them, ship it to them. Sometimes it can take a few weeks. If you want something and you want to support the store and you want to get it maybe a little bit faster than what we could send it to you, you can go to this and they will be able to usually ship it to you within 1 or 2 days. You do have to pay shipping. I don't know their sales tax. It may be dependent on your state, but the items are discounted. So again, while they're not quite the Amazon level of discount, you do get a decent deal on these books. So they do offer more products than we have in the physical storefront.
Yeah, I mean,
there's only so much space we have.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for Neil Gaiman's American Gods, the 10th anniversary hardcover edition, you can order it through the site. If you're looking for, the Witchblade soundtrack, to whatever, you can order it through this site.
They have DVDs,
a lot of stuff.
We have access to DVDs, Blu-rays, CD soundtracks. I mean, all sorts of regular books. If you really get to buy the Twilight collector's edition set, you can buy that through us.
Dude, I already saw you order it in previews.
What the heck? So the site's kind of in a starting. It sort of hasn't been running for very long, so there's some kind of goofiness to it. But I do hope people will check this out. Any money we get on this, everything goes straight back into the store. Helps keep the store around. Helps keep the podcast up. Keep Brock fed. It keeps Brock's kid fed. Yeah. So if you support feeding children, you should buy stuff off here
or buy stuff direct.
Yes. I'm looking right now. I mean, they got a big thing here. They got the beautiful Alex Toth art book that just came out a little while ago. They have the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen Blu-ray if you really, really want it. I mean, that's right there on the front page. So again, you'll see there's some goofiness. The site's not exactly perfect yet, but they are in the process of getting this all set up, and I expect as time goes on, it will look better and better. I wish we had a little more control over the layout, but for now it's fine. So. And that's Comics Conspiracy with an S.
They can buy stuff from us like in store, on this place, direct mail order, on Amazon, and on eBay. Yeah. Jeez.
Comicsconspiracy.theretailerplace.com, and that'll get you there. Like I said, maybe I'll try to get a nice forwarding site to make it a little easier for.
Well, the link will be on the comicsconspiracy.
But if I could do conspiracyshop.com or something like that, just a real quick, easy link to forward to here. That'd be easier.
Or it'll be up on the blog, or it'll be up on the Geekbox. Yeah. So I mean, just find the link, click on it, bookmark it, keep it near bookmarks for shopping.
They do offer a certain amount of pre-order as well. Again, maybe not quite in advance as Amazon, but they do offer a number of items for pre-order. Also, if there is something you do see on this site, and if you're going to be in the area and you want to pick it up here locally, or if you just want to support, I mean, we can also order these items directly to the shop as well, because this is one of our distributors. So these are items that are available to us. If they have them on here, we should be able to get them as well. So always free to say, hey, I saw this item, you know, can you get me a copy of it as well if you want to come pick it up, or whatever the case may be. Again, we're happy to do that. So it's just, you know, there are many options. Starting at the end of this month, we should have the digital storefront up for DC and Comixology, assuming they get that set up. It's kind of getting down to the wire.
I still don't understand why Marvel and DC and all are not doing it direct, why they're dealing with...
Well, DC is Comixology, and you know they're just going to buy Comixology.
Yeah.
If it works, they're just going to buy the company outright. Marvel has their own thing, and DC and Dark Horse has their own thing.
Yeah.
But it has to go through iTunes, so everyone's going to lose 30% to Apple.
Yeah.
Why Warner Brothers is losing 30% to Comixology is beyond me. But like I said, give it 6 months, and Comixology will be bought by DC. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind.
I'm still not going to get digital comics, but you know.
Yeah, sure. That's a discussion for the next couple weeks. Actually, I guess since we're on the topic of the store, something I didn't mention to you earlier, Brock, but you do know about this. No, you know about this. And the New 52 stuff, we are going to be doing the midnight sale for Justice League #1 and Flashpoint #5, which will be Tuesday, August 30th. We will be...
Actually, I should be able to be here for that.
Cool.
I have a late start on Wednesday, so...
Cool. We will be recording the Geek Box that night, for the most part, I believe. So I'm going to talk to Ryan and everyone there. If you do listen to the Geek Box or this and you want to stop by, I'm actually thinking maybe we'll just record live if people are here. That'd be fun, you know, have people in the background.
Well, do you want to... We should switch. The Geek Box should record on Monday, and we should record live on...
We could do that. I mean, we'll figure something out. We'll see if we could do that. And then we're going to probably have a little party at the store from about 8 to midnight, 8 or 9 o'clock, usually by the time we get things set up. So, but again, we'll be open the whole time, so come down. Books will be on sale at 12:01. We can only sell Flashpoint #5 and Justice League #1, but should be a blast. We've done this before with the Stephen King book a couple of years ago, and when we had the Jeff Johns signing, we had the party afterwards, and I think, did we do any others, or was that it? May have been it.
I think that was it, because you didn't do it for Final Crisis #1, did you?
No, they didn't offer for that. Due to the nature of these type of events, it'll probably have to be like a 21-plus thing. We'll probably have free alcohol, free hanging out. Again, if you are under the age of 21 but you want to come, show up early. We'll work something out. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I just don't want to get in trouble.
Well, we're not going to rage?
We're going to throw a party in here.
Toga.
We're going to raise the roof.
No, let's not raise the roof. Let's raise this wall right here.
Open up next door. Throw the party next door.
Yeah.
Well, we got one last thing to talk about, and then we'll do some picks, and then we'll shut this bad boy down. Like I said, it was kind of a small news week, except for one item.
Yeah, which actually made it to the news.
Which was a real news item, which is I'm sure you've now all heard the story, but we have a new Spider-Man.
Rephrase.
We have a new Ultimate
Spider-Man.
For those who haven't been following along, Marvel has a series of books called Ultimate Comics, which is a sort of alternate reality, different take. Spider-Man, Peter Parker became Spider-Man in the year 2000. It was sort of been moving ahead. Things like the Thor movie, the Avengers movie, are a little bit more based on the Ultimate books. They're a little more modern takes on these characters. So Peter Parker died a couple months ago in Ultimate Spider-Man and has now been replaced with a new character named Miles Morales, who is a half African-American, half Latino
kid.
Who's, I guess he's supposed to be like 13 or something.
What?
I don't know. In the comic, he doesn't look 13, but whatever. I don't know where. I read that he was supposed to be 13 years old. I'm like, whoa, okay.
He's a freshman in high school?
Yeah, it's 8th grade, 9th grade, yeah.
If it's 9th grade, he's a freshman. He's 13.
Well, they didn't say, no, 13 should be like, 8th grade, right?
Yeah, no, 13 is 9th.
13, 14, 15. No, you graduate when you're 17? You should graduate
Most people
when you're 18.
graduate when they're... It's half and half.
Oh, okay, well, either way.
Because I graduated when I was 17.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Well, either way.
Yeah, old man.
So Ultimate Comics Fallout #4, which is sort of the aftermath of the death of Ultimate Spider-Man. He is the new Spider-Man. Very controversial for the reasons that he's not white and not Peter Parker. Personally, well, I mean, I should say, this is a character that the Ultimate books at our store and on the sales charts in general have not been performing. I mean, they used to be the number one books. Yeah. They used to blow everything else away. Picture Ultimate or All-Star Superman or All-Star Batman from DC. This is kind of like Marvel had these sort of sales juggernauts prior to this. Ultimates when it launched with Mark Miller and Brian Hitch. Brian Michael Bendis has been the long-time writer on Ultimate Spider-Man with Mark Bagley. I mean, these books were the number one with a bullet. I mean, these books are huge. Through recent years, though, the numbers have declined pretty greatly. They've been trying to pick it up after Ultimatum, which was their big sort of end-of-the-world crossover by Jeff Loeb and Joe Madriata, who is not known for doing art on a timely fashion. But if you ever played...
I thought Fitch did the art on that. Finch.
No, Joe Mad.
Mad did the art on that? Mm-hmm. No, he did the art on Ultimates.
Ultimatum.
3.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ultimatum.
Ultimatum was Fitch.
Ultimatum was Fitch. Ultimates 3 was Joe Mad. I'm sorry. Thank you. You are correct. But...
Ultimatum is just, let's see who we can kill in the most interesting fashion.
Yeah.
And probably the most interesting one was the Blob eating the Wasp.
Yeah, it was pretty much just violence porn.
Yeah.
Like extreme violence porn.
Yeah.
Like, it was bizarre. Yeah, it was a really bizarre story. Well, that aside, they've been kind of trying to struggle to get this new kind of hype to it. And in full disclosure, I sold barely any copies of Ultima Fallout number 4. I think the news story was big, and it did not translate into physical sales in the store.
Well, that's because, I mean, it's one of those things to create a new character and, kind of him carry the mantle. So, I mean, taking it out of, even in the real Marvel universe, right? Mm-hmm. You would take Spider Island, which everyone gets spider powers. Well, when everything's all said and done and the dust settles, this character still has powers and goes out and is Spider-Man because Peter Parker's gone. Mm-hmm. That's transferable. It works, right? Yeah. Because you transition into it. This is just, I think it's one of the last gasps for the Ultimate line in the sense of, let's try and, just rattle the cage.
Try to do something.
With something.
They tried with Ultimates 3, they tried with Ultimatum, and nothing.
Nothing.
No one cared.
It failed. I mean,
they sold well, and then the new books dipped even lower.
I picked up the first run of Ultimate Avengers and didn't pick up anything else.
Yeah, that was awful.
And I tried to read Ultimate Spider-Man when they renumbered it, but it was so horrible.
Yeah.
And then
well, they had a shot specifically with Ultimate Spider-Man. They had a shot to do something totally different.
Yeah.
And except they kept Bendis, and everything was exactly the same.
Yeah. So it was a different artist, and it made him look younger, like he didn't even age.
And what's funny is Spider-Man died in Ultimatum.
Yeah.
Or supposedly.
Supposedly he dies in Ultimatum.
And it's like, we're just not going to reference that.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, the big subject on this is that he is not white. Spider-Man's a black guy. My take is, at least personally, at the store, with the number of people I talked to, I mentioned this site before, the Comics Beat, The Beat, there was a couple big threads on this, and I did say I would report back later in the day on what people were thinking, that now we're actually buying the comic, not just people on the internet, but actual customers. And it was exactly what I kind of figured. Very few people actually knew that there was a new Spider-Man. So this big media hype did not translate to customers in the store, right? Which most customers in the store were in the middle of Silicon Valley, and none of them go on the forums. None of them read comic book resources. None of them are on Twitter. Like, it is the comics internet is a very small group. Despite I didn't
even know about it until I saw it on the news.
Right. No one. Well, I had one guy that was a little bit on the why is he going to be black? But with the exception, no, it's not who you think. No, he would have been very blatant about it. Yeah. No, everyone, the only complaint people had was race, gender. He could have been Kryptonian. That wouldn't have mattered. The only problem people had was it's not Peter Parker. I don't think people care because he's black or Hispanic, a woman, gay. It wouldn't have mattered. They care because he's not, or they don't care because he's not Peter Parker.
Yeah.
One thing that happened when the Ultimate Comics launched, a lot of people were thinking, oh, why aren't these books are cool, but why aren't they more different? The whole thing was to be even more different than what was going on in the Marvel Universe at the time. And I said, and I've said this, and I'll say this again, I think had they launched and Peter Parker was black and Hispanic or a girl or gay or whatever they wanted to do, much like Nick Fury, in the Ultimate Universe, he's black. He's based off of Sam Jackson. In the Marvel Comics, he's white. I don't think people really would have cared because at the end of the day, it's still Peter Parker. You still have a lot of the same characteristics. Yeah. Bringing in a new character, your comparisons are going to be like Spider-Man 2009, Ben Reilly, who's the clone Peter Parker, which, although he's still technically Peter Parker, he's a different character. These are all failures at the end. People say Spider-Man 2009 was a huge book, and it was for the first couple issues, and by the end, it was a middle-of-the-road seller, just like most Marvel comics. So, yeah, I mean, I applaud Marvel for trying to do something different, maybe a little too little too late, but cool. But I think your point that it's not Peter Parker is going to prevent people that are interested in no, new people may come in for this. I mean, I got one guy, one civilian off the street who said, I'm here for the new Spider-Man who's not a white guy. Yeah. One guy. That doesn't translate into new sales.
Was he white?
Was he white?
Yeah.
He was not.
Oh, well.
I think he was Asian, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. I had a couple customers that bought it, saying, one of them specifically said, I want to read this just so I can have an opinion on this because I want to actually read the book and then say so I have a knowledgeable opinion on it. And I talked to him like a day or two later, and he's like, "Yeah, it was awful. It was like one of the worst comics I've read like this year." And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds about right." Yeah. Yeah, and I know the whole race thing seems to be this big sticking point for people, but I'm for my money. Race isn't the
Spider-Man.
factor.
This is the thing. Spider-Man is Peter Parker as Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Right. The same thing is, Kal-El is Clark as well as he is Superman. It's one of those things where these characters have a secret identity and these characters have their superhero identity, but they're tied together because they're one and the same. Now, when you take something like what Morrison did with Batman, where he got rid of Bruce Wayne and somebody has to take up the cowl, right? You kind of have this, it's more of a family thing. It's more of a in-house thing. It's more of so on and so forth. But like I said before, if this kid is somebody that's taking up the mantle of Spider-Man because Spider-Man is now gone, that's the premise. I can understand it moving forward, but like you said, it's not going to carry the book because people are going to be like, well, this isn't Peter Parker.
Right, and the question is, is Peter Parker just going to come back?
Yeah.
I think, maybe had they just had Peter Parker not die, but just get hurt or something, maybe people would have liked it better, but he could come back at any point, and then it would just be a temporary thing. I do want to comment here real quick. Ty Templeton, who's a animator and comic artist for a long time, he kind of had this comment of he did this kind of animated strip with this character named Bun Tunes, because it's this bunny that kind of comments and stuff. And he had a thing that says, kind of breaking down this controversy, and he says, first off, replacing a beloved iconic superhero just isn't done. It breaks all the traditions that comics are based on. It then shows a picture of various characters that have been replaced with other versions of the characters. Yeah. What I find really funny about it, though, is he picks, basically all failures of characters. I would have gone with Barry Allen, Hal Jordan, Damian Wayne as Robin. I would have gone with Dick Grayson as Batman. Characters that succeeded. He picked Azrael Batman. Let's see who else is on here. Thunderstrike, which is the replacement Thor. He picked Artemis, who was the replacement Wonder Woman. Red Hulk. Oh, he picked Guy Gardner. But again, Guy Gardner Warrior versus Jeff Johns' Green Lantern. No comparison. Yeah. U.S. Agent, which is pretty much a Joe character at this point. Mon-El, who replaced Superman. I love Mon-El, but don't get me wrong, that book sold for shit. when he replaced Superman.
The thing is he didn't. This is the thing. He didn't replace Superman in that book. He was Mon-El.
Right.
But that was the thing is he didn't replace Superman. Like he didn't put on the cape and and all that. He had his own costume. He just he replaced Superman in the sense of Superman's job.
Right. Of course.
Not
exactly.
Superman.
Not
so
Superman.
It's not a failure in that sense because he's Well,
he should put Steel. He should put Superboy. Which while they don't have the
Cyborg Superman,
but those
Eradicator,
Steel and Superboy, while their books have never been huge sellers, I don't think anyone hates those characters.
No, they don't.
Not the way they hate U.S. Agent or Red Hulk or Azrael Batman. Now, Azrael Batman's book sold a fuck ton, but that's just because it was the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, if that should happen now.
But there's actually a lot of interest for that story, those stories now.
The Nightfall stuff.
The Nightfall stuff.
Sure.
Because I think it's been enough time where people kind of want to go back and see those things. So.
Yeah. Again, I think this is something that this character will, will exist for a couple of years. He'll be written off. He'll be.
You know what they need to do? I got the ultimate fix. They need to hire a woman to write this story now. Because it's the only way they're going to fix it.
I think having Bendis do it is just like you're just continuing the story. Ultimate Spider-Man will be canceled.
Bendis needs to get away from Spider-Man.
It'll get relaunched again in 2 years.
Bendis, go write something else. Get away from Spider-Man.
Yeah,
You've been on Spider-Man for how many years now?
Yeah, more than a decade. He's one of the longest runs in superhero comics.
Well, that's amazing. That's awesome. If you're going for a certain number, I commend you. But dude, seriously, get off of the book.
Yeah.
Your well is tapped.
Yeah, I just think. Well, again, this is what he's trying to do. This is trying to do something different with the character. I think race plays absolutely no part of this. I think it all has to come down with the fact that it's not Peter Parker, and people aren't going to care. So,
did you read the issue?
No. I have not read Ultimate Comics. I've not read any of the Ultimates with the exception of Ultimatum and the first issue of Ultimates 3 since... Oh, no, I did read actually the first issue of Ultimate Spider-Man as well.
The reissue.
God, right, when they restarted it after Ultimatum. God. Easily 6-7 years. I will check out Ultimate X-Men #1. There's a new Ultimate X-Men coming out.
Another one?
Yeah. It's coming out the same month the new Ultimate Spider-Man's coming out.
Oh, nice.
Which is going to be written by Jonathan Hickman. So I do like Hickman. I'm willing to give it one issue.
I'm not a big fan of Hickman, but I will try.
Yeah.
Because I assume there's going to be more than one issue every 6 months.
I would assume so.
Unlike Loeb's last run on Ultimate X.
Yeah.
Which
was awful.
Yeah. I read
No, I didn't even read it.
I read 3 issues and 4 never came out. And when it came out, I looked at it on the shelf and went,
meh.
I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
So, and the funny thing is, you don't have any of those, but you have plenty of number 5. Because everyone picked up 4 and
no
was
one
like,
read number 5, yeah.
Because everyone picked up 4 and was like, okay, I waited this long for this? Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
What do we got? We got some random picks for the week.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Scott Snyder's Severed from Image.
Oh.
You said it.
I told you needed to read it, and you read it.
And I read it.
I did not get to read almost anything from this last week. So
I barely read a lot, but honestly, it's a first issue. It's hard to say what the story's about.
Yeah.
It's based in around the early turn of the century.
Okay.
I think after America ended the war, First World War. About a kid. It's about a couple different characters, but it's kind of bringing out kind of that horror feeling from, like the guy with the hook, and you're up on the hill, and you're making out with your girl, and you hear the scraping noise.
Yeah.
It's kind of like those old stories, but it's really at the cusp of when America is coming out of a war and young. It's a young America, pretty much. Because if you look at America after the Civil War, we were new again, and then we started to finally hit the Industrial Revolution, all this stuff, and then we went to war, and so America's always in a constant state of reviving. But really good. I really enjoyed it. It was a good read. So I'm looking forward to the second issue. But Severed, very, very good, Scott Snyder. And the artwork's not bad on it, but I don't know who does it off the top of my head. If you want to look that up for me.
I can look.
Because I don't want to walk away from the mic and go check it on the wall,
The artist is...
It's a female.
It is a female. Looking for a female. Hope I get an email.
From a female.
Yeah.
Is it a female?
Attila Futaki? Is that right?
I guess.
Is that right?
I don't know.
Am I looking at something? Yeah. Attila Futaki.
It's a female?
I believe, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. You're the one that dropped this on me.
Oh, so there's Image being, at least, equality among the sexes. No, the art's really dark, really good. Inking's done really well too. But the art,
the art definitely is. No, Attila Futaki is a male.
Oh, okay.
He is illustrating that Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Book 2, Sea of Monsters graphic novel.
Oh. I thought there was a female attached to that book somewhere.
No, I'm not sure. He's Hungarian.
Oh, that's a weird name for a Hungarian.
Attila the Hun? Attila the Futaki?
Futaki.
Okay, I'm just going to stop talking now before we...
But yeah, Pick Up Severed, if your comic book store is pretty cool, they ordered a couple extra copies, and you can still find number 1 on the shelf.
I know that if I'm not mistaken, DC Diamond overshipped that to a lot of stores.
Oh,
so
wow.
a lot of stores should have extra copies, even if they only ordered a few and didn't sell. We sold, we sold quite a bit. So,
well, I looked at it when I was and you were like, "It's Scott Snyder, read it," and I was like, "All right."
Yeah.
Because I'm somebody on a budget, even though I work for you. But yeah, it's Pick Up Severed. It's really, really good. I enjoyed it. I actually was the first thing I read when I got home that night. And definitely really, really good read. Definitely.
Sweet. It is in my stack of stuff to read for this week.
Yeah, your stack keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Oh, I know. Tell me about it. Well, my pick this week is going to be something I haven't read in a long, long time. It's something I need to fix. While at yes. While at Isotope, I got to talk to another comic book writer who's there, who I'm a very big fan of, by the name of James Robinson. He lives in San Francisco. Besides being was the current writer on Justice League, since the book is now ending and being relaunched. He did a very long run on a comic called Starman, which is a very, very great book. When people say comics in the 90s sucked, they obviously weren't really paying attention, because some of the best comic books that I think have ever been published came out in the 90s. The majority of Sandman came out in the 90s. Hitman, Preacher, Transmetropolitan. The majority of Vertigo. Another book called Starman, which was a great retake on the classic Starman character, who's an old JSA character, written by James Robinson, and they were able art by Tony Harris is the majority of the run. Later, Peter Snijberg. I'm probably butchering that name. I can never know how to pronounce
butchering that name.
Butchering his name. But James Robinson has written all sorts of handful of stuff here and there. But he is mostly well known for his run on Starman. I'm not actually going to recommend Starman right now. What I'm going to recommend is something else, because of something else that got announced. In the Starman comic, hold on. In the Starman comic, there's a very popular villain, kind of not a villain, like one of those guys where he's a bad guy, but he's not really a bad guy, named the Shade. He's an old Flash villain. I think he fought Hawkman, maybe. But he took him and reinvigorated him as a sort of like couple 100-year-old, long-running guy in all black in the top hat, and he's just kind of been going through time, and he has these shade powers. He can turn, into shadows, and he can meld around to turn into like wind and move around and stuff. But he sort of takes Jack Knight, who's the main Starman character, is the thing. Well, there was a 4-issue miniseries that they kind of did where they went through a lot of his backstory, his origin. They kind of James Robinson went through and redid a lot of stuff. They announced that in October there's going to be a new Shade miniseries coming out by James Robinson with an all-star creative team, different artists on every issue. I don't have the list in front of me right here, but I remember there were some really, really great people attached to it. If I am not mistaken, it is collected in the Starman Omnibus Volume 6. I know that's reading maybe something you don't want to pick up just this. So I would recommend hunting around your local comic shops to see if you can find the single issues. I don't believe Brock's grabbing the soft covers. I don't believe they collected it in any of the soft cover collections. I believe it was only collected in the omnibus. To the best of my knowledge, there is no trade for Shade by itself.
There is no trade.
There is no trade for Shade. Again, I mean, I'm going to recommend Starman, but that's actually not why. I'm not specifically talking about Starman. I'd love to do a longer discussion once I reread it again. It's been years.
Well, I read the first story arc in softcover. I borrowed a used copy and read, and it was enjoyable. Like, it was getting into Starman was like his character. You get into a new character reading that book, and James Robinson did a really good job. Kind of, I mean, it really does feel like a '90s read when you read it.
That's one of those books I think is way ahead of its time. It is. Well, the way the Starman book specifically is written, it is now he's now the third Starman under the father. Mm-hmm. So Jack Knight is this character that's the main Starman through here. The book starts, I mean, not a spoiler, it's within the first 2 pages of the book. The book starts with his brother being killed, who was the previous Starman. And it's about him and his legacy trying to be this very different version of this character. Like I said, it's very complicated. I don't want to get into it here, but I'm specifically recommending trying to track down the Shade comics, specifically that miniseries, because there's a new one.
People something hard to find.
Just a mini. Well, it's good. eBay's for. I think we have a set or two here. Maybe
we might have a set here.
Yeah. So you go in James Robinson's new Shade miniseries coming out. I believe it's a 10 or 12 issue. I believe it's a 10 issue miniseries. Recommend trying to pick up this old one, and you'll probably end up wanting to pick up Starman after that, but that's something for another time. Gotta save Starman for another recommendation, but it is a good book too.
We're just gonna end up repeating recommendations.
I'm sure, yeah. I'm gonna recommend Marvel 2-in-1 Volume 2 because actually that might have an appearance by Justice, by Marvel Boy Vance Astrovic from the New Warriors. So maybe I do want to recommend Marvel 2-in-1 Volume 2. So him and the Thing are like in the boxing ring.
Looking at a ball?
No, seriously. Wasn't Vance Astro? He was in the Thing series, but I thought he was also in that in a couple issues of Marvel 2-in-1. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, let's end this podcast.
Oh, look at me. I don't know.
I do love my New Warriors run. So
yeah, we know. I'm waiting on my booster gold.
Oh, nice. You have to show me that when it's done.
I will.
Cool. All right, Brock. I think it's time to wrap this episode up. We already broke that hour mark. So much for that short episode.
Dude, I told you jinxed it.
If you want to send us any emails, you can send us email at thecomicconspiracy@geekbox.net. You can also go on geekbox.net to find this episode. Episodes of the Geekbox are sort of parent podcast. You go on forums at geekbox.net. Talk to us in the forums. Say hey.
Yeah, I apologize. I haven't been on.
We done this
lately.
Talk in the comic forums. You can visit the store website, which is Comics Conspiracy, comics with an S, comicsconspiracy.biz, B-I-Z. We will have comicsconspiracy.theretailerplace.com. We will have that linked on there, so go check that out. If you want to support the store, buy some comics. We also, like I said previously, we do take all sorts of special requests and special orders and subscriptions through the store. And with the new 52 coming out, what a better time than to start your subscription at Comic Conspiracy.
I'm going to strangle you right now.
More shit
is being shipped.
More stuff for you to ship, Brock. Have fun, baby.
Oh yeah.
Any last things? Any last words? Anything to pimp?
Visit conspiratorbrock.blogspot.com. We hit 4,000 at San Diego, and actually a week later we surpassed 5,000 hits.
Nice.
So obviously people are enjoying my little blog corner of the universe.
You putting on any new reading lists or anything?
I haven't gotten a chance to get any new reading lists up.
Okay.
Actually, a lot of the reason I was able to do it was I was working in a class with the kids were online doing work. So it's like, you want help, ask me. Otherwise, I'm sitting here,
porn.
Basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be trying to get some more stuff up. I'm still getting up the random comic pick for me.
Cool.
And my pull list for the week.
Sweet.
Other than that, there will be a link to that as soon as you send me the damn link.
Okay.
I'm too lazy to type it in.
It's fine.
There'll be a link to the digital storefront. I'm sorry, the retailer storefront for the DVDs and stuff.
Cool.
Other than that, not much else.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and hit stop. We'll be back next week.
Yeah. My birthday next week.
Oh, it's your birthday next week?
Yeah.
Nice. I'll have to do a special birthday episode.
You can send presents to 1115 or 115A East Fremont Avenue.